Welcome everyone to this fourth and final session of the wellbeing workshops that Nemo National have put together in collaboration with Whittlesea Council for the Positive Aging team. Welcome back if this is not your first session, if you've attended other sessions, and welcome to you if this is your first session. So there was a series of 4 different workshops that we've put together, I guess to explore some ways and some strategies and that people can stay healthy and stay well during this COVID isolation time with all the physical, social distancing, disconnection that's happening for people. So it's been, an exploration around, some of the issues that we might be facing, that people watching might be facing. We talked in the first session about, excuse me, how to know when we are feeling stressed and what to do about it. So how to know our kind of signs and signals of stress. In the second session, we talked about meaning and purpose and the importance of having meaning and purpose, or having a sense of meaning and purpose. And where and how we can create that for ourselves and how it can support our well-being. In the third session, we talked about connection and why that's important. And in that third session, the conversation, we did start talking about how we can use structure and routine to promote a sense of connection for ourselves, to bring those things in that are important to us, that do provide us with meaning and purpose, whether that's people, places, activities. So, those are things that support our well-being and our emotional health at the best of times, let alone, during potentially, very challenging times of COVID that we are going through at the moment. So the exploration today, or the topic today, is about going a bit more into detail around the importance of structure and routine, and how we can use that to keep us well and to maximise and optimise all aspects of our health during this COVID isolation time. So for those that have not met me, and as a reminder to those that have, my name's Beck, and I'm an occupational therapist with the Nemo National Life Connect program. And the program that I work for is a suicide prevention and postvention program, but I'm here talking to you in the role as a mental health occupational therapist. So that is the focus for the sessions, and obviously for today as well. So thinking about our emotional and mental well-being, which obviously is interrelated to very much to our physical health and other aspects of health, which we have explored in previous sessions. So let's crack on. So why is it important? Why is structure and routine important to us? Why is it useful to us and beneficial to us? So routine and structure helps us maintain and build connection. We talked about how important connection is, and connectedness, or that sense of being connected to something. We talked, the third session was all about connection. So routine and structure supports us to maintain and build connection, because it gives us those opportunities to intentionally, ensure that we are doing things that are meaningful and important and valuable to us. We all generally thrive off some form of routine and structure. Everyone has a different relationship with how much structure and routine they like in their lives, but as human beings, we are socialised from an early age as children to have routine and structure. And in any circumstances, they are very good strategies to support us in optimizing and maximizing all aspects of our health in the best way possible, and particularly when we are under stress or in stressful situations. A lot of our routine and structure can feel like it goes out of the window, and for a lot of people, if not everyone at the moment, there's that sense that a lot of the routine and structure that we normally have in place that supports our well-being and our emotional and physical health, a lot of those things or those opportunities have reduced or been taken away from us. So that sense of routine and structure can be a lot harder to identify or to connect with at the moment. Routine and structure is important to us because it supports us to get the most out of our energy, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in later slides. It's important because it provides us with motivation, that sense of purpose and meaning. So when we are engaging with things that are that feel purposeful and meaningful to us, we get that sense of value and of usefulness, and we are then, you know, it creates that sense of momentum or that motivation, which motivates us and drives us to keep connecting with things and to bring more things into our lives that we are connecting with. Generally, people don't enjoy connecting with things that aren't enjoyable or meaningful, so we would be less motivated to do tasks that aren't purposeful or meaningful to us, but we are more likely and more motivated to do tasks or to engage and connect with things that do provide us with a sense of purpose and meaning and are important to us. And as we talked in the first session when we were talking about stress, the importance of connecting with things that bring us joy and are enjoyable to us as well. Routine and structure also helps us to stay organised and feel like we are achieving things, so we get that sense that you know, that it promotes that sense of achievement and of accomplishment, which helps us feel like, you know, we are a valuable, useful human being, which is really important at the moment because a lot of the opportunities that we would normally identify ourselves in, whether that's you know, the roles that we have in our lives, so being a friend or being a participant in a group, being part of a particular community, a lot of those opportunities, I guess, are decreased or diminished for a lot of us at the moment. So it's really important to bring in those opportunities where we can of achieving things and feeling like we are accomplished humans, because as humans we all need that sense of accomplishment and like we're actually doing something useful. And structure and routine helps us maintain a sense of organisation around that. So how do we do it? So getting organised is one of the key things, and I realise that, you know, some people would identify as being more a naturally organised person than other people, and when we're talking about organising ourselves and kind of bringing structure and routine, you know, as with any of the content in any of these sessions, the invitation is to apply it to your own social or own personal situation, and your own kind of strengths and what works for you and what you know works for you and your already existing relationship, I guess, with structure and routine. These are just suggestions. They're not, you know, it's not a panacea or a one-size-fits-all, but getting organised is a really good antidote to stress and worry, because by being more organised, it can make it easier for us to give ourselves that kind of kickstart to doing some activity. And that activity can be a really small thing. It can be, you know, an ongoing thing, a project with many stages to it. It can be one thing per day. But that, you know, when we're talking about stress and managing our worry, it can be really helpful as a strategy to, I guess, redirect that stress and that worry or anxiety into activity. And when I say activity, that could be connecting with someone over a cup of tea over the phone. It could be reading a book. It could be doing some gardening. Whatever, you know, works for you or is your kind of choice of activity or thing that you're connecting with. And when we say connecting with things, I guess it's also important to highlight that it's not just about an activity. It can be a person, it can be a place, it can be yourself as well. So intentionally giving yourself some time to connect with yourself and your experience and what you're holding and happening and what is happening for you at the moment. So getting organised involves perhaps making plans, running lists of what you need to do, ensuring you've got what you need to do in order to do the things that you need to do, and then get on with the doing of it. So some people find it really useful, and I'm certainly one of them, to write lists, so lists of things to do in a day. Some people like to write, you know, a list for the week and then break that down into each day they're going to do a certain number of tasks. Some people like to do what we call ta-da list, so that kind of ta-da, so that kind of concept of a to-do list is celebrating the things that you have done in a day, so that you are promoting that sense of accomplishment and achievement, and you're setting yourselves realistic tasks and goals and aims to achieve in a day, knowing yourself, knowing your own situation, knowing your own kind of current physical, emotional and mental health status. And some people even get rid of to-do lists completely, and what they do is at the end of a day is write down, you know, actually sit down and think, what have I achieved today? Because often we can have those days where we feel like we haven't done anything, and when we actually kind of mindfully sit down at the end of the day and write down what we've done, we actually realise that we've achieved a lot more than we realise we have. So think about what it is that you want to bring into your life, what you want to get organised, and put some, you know, bring some structure and routine into your life so that it will help you get more organised and will help you bring that sense of engagement and connection with things. And, you know, everyone's in the same boat at the moment, and remember that, you know, there might be other people out there that could perhaps do with some prompting or some support around maybe putting a list together, or sharing an activity with someone, or some ideas about activities, and working around or working out how you can bring that structure and routine can be really helpful to getting organised as well. One of the really key things, I think, in terms of scheduling and routine, and we talked in the third session, as I said, about connection and the importance of connection, is to, I guess, not feel afraid to actually intentionally schedule in some moments of connection with people. And that might be, you know, having a regular 10:30 cup of tea with someone on a particular day in a week. It can be, you know, thinking about that broader sense of connection, making sure or ensuring that you are making time for you to connect with things that are meaningful to you. If you know that you are someone that likes nature or going out walking, ensuring in your schedule or your routine that you have intentional time aside for you to engage with that particularly meaningful, valuable and important activity. So again, bringing in that sense of meaning and enjoyment and purpose to you as well, whichever or whatever way that needs to look like for you. Thinking about, as we talked about, I think it was session 1 around stress, and session 2 around purpose and meaning, and, you know, making sure that our to-do lists aren't just filled with all those kind of life admin tasks or those daily chores that we need to complete, but with the, you know, using our routine cleverly and smartly so that we are ensuring we're bringing lots of different things in, so that we are creating that sense of connection and purpose and meaning, and being intentional as well about our connecting with people outside of us. And obviously that is getting a little bit easier now that restrictions have relaxed again, but being aware as well around how you create, if you are starting to expand your social bubble, thinking how you can use routine and structure to most effectively start reconnecting with people if you're starting to get out and about a bit more. And recognising that moments of connection can be brief, they can be long, they could just be a check-in text message or a quick, you know, a touch base phone call, just checking in, was thinking of you, just checking in. They don't need to be onerous and kind of laborious. The intention is for this to be improving your mental and emotional health rather than taking away from it. And making full use of technology. We've all had to adapt how we communicate, how we connect, in terms of having the options for face-to-face catch-ups taken away. And obviously a workshop like this would normally be delivered in a room full of people with energy and, you know, chatter and all the laughter and fun things that go along with being in a group of people. But here we all are sitting individually, probably in our own rooms, watching and partaking in this video. And I think it was last session when we talked about connectedness, I put up some resources around, I think it's the Australian government have a really good website around how to, I guess, increase your skills around using technology if it's something that you aren't feeling as confident about. And I can assure you wholeheartedly that this is not the first time that I've recorded this video, because I myself experienced great challenges with technology and have thanked people in previous sessions, and will do right now, for your compassion and understanding if there are any technical glitches. But technology is out there to support us to maintain connection with activities, whether it's online exercises, whether it's online choirs, whether it's, you know, doing phone calls or Skype or FaceTime cups of tea, or meals with people, watching TV programs. So it's all out there and available to us if we choose to and want to access it, I guess. So completing tasks. So if we're thinking about structure and routine, it helps us complete tasks, and completing tasks also feeds into, or helps us form our routine and structure as well. And completing tasks is important because it gives us, as I've said, that sense of motivation and accomplishment. And by completing tasks, we keep ourselves interested and motivated. And again, that kind of being smart around how we, you know, the tasks that we ask ourselves to do, it can be really helpful and valuable to alternate between what I call quieter and more active tasks. So not doing all your really energy dense tasks in one day. So if you want to clean the house, maybe breaking that into 2 different days of activity, rather than doing it all at once and then being completely exhausted by the end of the day, not having energy left to do any other things. So maybe doing your energy dense tasks in the morning. If you know that you're a morning person and you have lots of energy, as it says there, notice what times of day you have most or more energy, and using that energy effectively. So if you're a car and you're full, you know, you had a fuel tank, your fuel light's on, you're not going to try and drive from Melbourne to Bendigo, because you're not going to get there, you're going to run out of fuel. So notice the kind of times or patterns of day that you have most or more energy, and I guess use your schedule and your routine wisely, so that those activities or things that take a lot of energy, you're doing those when you have more energy in the tank. And that applies to scheduling in outings. And again, as the kind of the world opens up a little bit more, scheduling in our outings and our more active tasks wisely, and knowing that as the kind of the world and, you know, our social lives maybe open up a bit more, or activities outside the house open up a bit more to us, that there is going to be a transition. There is, you know, it's going to take more energy to do those things that we used to do, just because our whole patterns and our whole routines and schedules have changed over the last 3 months, and we've kind of settled into a particular routine or schedule or energy expenditure pattern, and now we're kind of having to lift that or change that again to adapt to, you know, getting out and about a bit more and connecting with things and with people and activities differently. So it's useful to remind yourself to pace yourself, to go slowly, to not be afraid to say no, because there can be the temptation when the social invites start coming in again, as they will do, that you say yes to everything because, you know, we've been disconnected for so long. But I guess the really strong message there is to pace yourself and to listen to your body and your mind and what it's telling you in terms of, you know, this is enough for today, and scheduling in rest days in between particularly busy days. Being wise about what you put on your to-do list, so making it more of a to-do list, so you get that sense of I've achieved things for the day, rather than looking at your to-do list of 8 things at the end of the day, noticing there's only 3, feeling a little bit defeated, which kind of then takes the edge off the momentum and the motivation and the energy that you have to complete tasks. So healthy routines, they are important to us. Most of us, if not all of us, have well-established patterns of routines that, you know, we get up, we eat, we shower, dress, do whatever we do, we make meals, if we're working, we work, if we have particular roles or identities or things that we do in our day, we do those. You know, it can be really useful to, particularly at a time like this when a lot of routines are harder to access, doing things like ensuring we're going to bed at the same or similar time, getting up at the same or similar time, whether that be to an alarm or not to an alarm, you know, scheduling in meal times. And this isn't to suggest that we all need to be really rigid and fixed into particular patterns, but often what happens when we are stressed or when we are impacted by particularly major significant events, it can through no kind of wish of our own, it can create it can force new routines onto us. So it's really important for us to recognize and remember what is important for us in our routine, and to be conscious about making sure we are including those things in our routine and our structure, so that we are giving ourselves the best opportunity to do what it is that we need to do to keep ourselves healthy, and therefore building that sense of value, building that sense of importance, of meaning and purpose, having that sense of achievement and accomplishment, so that we are feeling, you know, the best version of ourselves, I guess, because there's a lot of things at the moment that can potentially make us feel a little bit not quite connected with ourselves, even, let alone not connected with people outside of us. So it can be useful to think, maybe outside of this session, to think about the routines that are important to you, and if you share, you know, routines or households or tasks with anyone else, and, you know, think smartly about how you can keep up or maintain the routines that you do have. If you've noticed that some of your routines have fallen by the wayside a bit, what can you do to kind of try and replicate those or bring them back in? Can you make them smaller? Can you change them? Do you need to get some technology to help you maintain those routines? And, you know, this is also a great opportunity to think about creating new routines and bringing new things into our structures as well. One of the things that we talked about in I think the first session around strategies for managing stress is about, you know, ensuring we've got things to look forward to, and those things being, I guess, again, of value and meaning and importance to us. And it's a really significant part of having a routine and using our schedule wisely is to plan ahead as much as you are comfortable to, and ensuring that you've got things in your schedule, whether it's one thing a day for the next 3 days, whether it's, you know, ensuring you've got an activity or a point of connection 3 times a week, so that you're maintaining some sense of normality or some sense of connectedness with something other than yourself, and having that sense of positive things to look forward to, because at the moment there can be a lot of anticipatory anxiety around not knowing what's going to happen, when restrictions are going to change again, how am I going to adapt to the next level of relaxation of restrictions. So having some positive anticipation is a good thing as well. So having those key things in place to look forward to, which can be tiny things or big things. And being kind to yourself about the situation that we're in, about your own personal situation, where your mental, physical and emotional health might be at the moment, and offering yourself that same kindness that you would offer to other people, so that you are being realistic about your expectations of yourself. So getting that balance between ensuring you've got enough on and enough things to look forward to, and enough kind of routine and enough things scheduled. You're using your schedule in an effective way, which also includes scheduling downtime, or, you know, phone off time, or no screen time, or whatever it might be for you, but being realistic and kind to yourself about what you are able to and wanting to achieve. So, excuse me, tips and tricks for how to add things into your, if you're wanting to bring in new things into your routine, be smart about it. So by that I mean, rather than creating a whole new routine, if there's something you want to add into your life, can you add it onto, like tack it onto an already existing part of your routine? So it might be there's a particular thing that you do once a week and you want to do something else that might be on the way to that, or you know, if there's any medication that you need to take, how do you remember to take it? Because when we're stressed and when we're under kind of challenging situations, sometimes our memory and our thinking and our concentration can be affected. So new learning can be impacted as well. So by adding new things to already existing and already established parts of our routine, that makes it more likely that we're going to be able to kind of complete those tasks or bring in those new changes. Ensuring we have at least one activity, task or moment of connectedness scheduled in daily is really important. And again, that can be as big or as small as you need it to be for you and your personal situation and your health status at the moment. I say at least one. It can be as many as is realistic and kind for yourself. And it can be, you know, that connecting us over the phone, it can be doing an activity, but ensuring that there is something meaningful and purposeful scheduled into your day that is, you know, will be very much a personal and subjective thing. Hence why I don't have a long prescription of them. And ensuring with our routine that we are keeping to a routine around the basics as much as possible. So around our medication, around our sleep, around our eating patterns, and doing our activities, using our energy when, you know, in the most effective way, so that we are keeping the basics going. So by keeping the basics going at any time, in the best of times, let alone in the worst of COVID isolation times, we are maintaining a kind of basic state in the best way possible, so that we are supporting our mental and emotional health as much as we can. And with that, listening to your body and your mind and what it's telling you. Are you displaying aches and pains that you don't normally have? Are you finding that you're suddenly wearing your shoulders as earrings? Oh no, am I a bit stressed, or maybe there's something happening for me? So what are those signs? Getting to know your signs and signals around what your mind and body, any changes in your behavior, any change in your mood state, any kind of thoughts that you might be noticing are popping up a bit more for you. What are they leading you to? What are they trying to tell you? And I guess then, what do you do with those? So that might involve reaching out. It might be around sharing activities or tasks, you know, using the internet, doing it over the phone, so that's going to increase your enjoyment of it. It might even increase your motivation to engage in those particular activities or tasks. Knowing your signs and signals of when, you know, you might be doing all of these things. You might have a very strong sense of when you're stressed and know the strategies that work for you. You might be connecting. You might have a wonderful routine and structure in place, and things still aren't working for you. How do you know when you've got to, I guess, your tipping point? Because everyone will have a different tolerance to discomfort and a different tolerance to stress and change. So getting to know yourself and getting to know when it's like, things aren't quite as comfortable as I'd like them to be, or I'm noticing particular behaviours or emotional responses happening for me. That feels a bit different to normal. What do I want to do with that? Having an idea of who to reach out to. We talked in previous sessions about having a go-to person, or a person or persons that you might reach out to, but thinking about who that person might be before you need them, I guess, is really important. And knowing as well that you might be that person for someone else, and not being afraid to reach out yourself to people that you might be observing perhaps struggling, or you might be noticing changes in their demeanour or their mood, or their frequency of communication, for instance, is often a very initial thing that people notice, that, you know, when people are starting to withdraw a little bit more, that can be a sign or a signal that that person's maybe not tracking along so well. Remembering that you're not alone in this experience, and I know that might sound a bit kind of throwaway in a comment, but it is really important to remind ourselves that everyone is going through this collective experience, and that sense of normal, you know, that kind of normalizes that experience for us, knowing that we're not alone in this experience, and that those thoughts that you're having, someone else right now is probably having those thoughts, and that also it's normal to feel lonely and isolated, and it is quite inevitable. And again, within that feeling of loneliness and isolation, knowing for yourself what is your usual kind of level of comfort or discomfort around feeling lonely and isolated, and then knowing if it's kind of gone over to this is overwhelmed now, or this is too much for me now, and knowing when to reach out and talk to a professional if you need to. If you do notice changes in your own behaviour or in others, well, if it's with others, you know, feeling free and okay to check in with them, and knowing that there is nothing that you can say that is wrong, and even just saying, hey, I've noticed you're a bit quieter than normal, or you haven't come to the online group, you know, the last three weeks, just checking in on you and how things are, checking in with yourself if you're noticing your own kind of stress signs, symptoms, or changes in your behaviours happening, letting people know you're available, and reaching out to people if you need to, normalising the experience for yourself, most importantly, and we talked about that, I think, in one of the previous sessions around, you know, if you've ever flown on a plane, they encourage you to put your own oxygen mask on before putting anyone else, before helping other people. So we can't be there for other people if we're not being there for ourselves, I guess, is the message there. Listening to people with openness and without judgment, knowing our limitations, so knowing when we have reached our own personal point of, this is too much for me now, I need to do something with this, this is beyond what I can manage for myself. And, you know, professionals know services that are there to provide support around our mental and emotional support. They know that it's not always easy to reach out and seek support, and I would hope and anticipate that you would be greeted with openness and without judgment. But even recognising and knowing that things aren't okay for you, not anyone else, just for you, it's okay to get to that point, and then taking that step to, you know, reach out and get some perhaps professional support around that is very normal and to be expected and reasonable at a time like this. So where do you reach out to? These numbers have gone up in previous sessions. Lifeline is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So 13, 11, 14. Beyond Blue is the same, 1800 512 348. MindSpot is also a new one that I've come across whilst I've been kind of putting these sessions together. Previously mentioned in other sessions, if you like electronic resources, if you like reading things, head to health.gov.au, that's an Australian government website. And your local GP, of course, it can be easy to forget that the GPs are still there because we're not necessarily accessing the services in the same way that we have been. But it's important to know that your GP is still available, and the regular things like mental health care plans, if you're feeling like you want to talk to a psychologist or a counsellor, those options are available to you. And, you know, often the GP is a really good place to start. And I would certainly encourage anyone watching that's concerned about their own kind of emotional and mental health and well-being, and, you know, if you're also managing a chronic physical health condition or a new physical health condition as well, that is going to have I guess impacts and influences on your experience of your own mental and emotional health as well. So a very strong encouragement to reach out to who you need to at this time, because it's very reasonable and appropriate and normal to be experiencing a certain amount of anxiety or concern or worry about the current situation. So that is the end of the session for today. I'd like to thank you if you've been to all 4, amazing. And also, you know, if you've just dipped in and out, thank you very much as well. Hopefully there's been some usefulness and you've got something from one or more of the sessions. Thinking about stress, thinking about meaning and purpose, thinking about connection, and then, you know, a bit more detail around how we use structure and routine to support ourselves at any time, really. This is, you know, this is all very relevant for promoting and sustaining a optimal mental, physical and emotional and other areas of health at any time, let alone during COVID times. So I'd like to thank you for your time and energy in joining in with the workshop today, and hopefully there's been some insightful, useful information for you, and I wish you well, and who knows, our paths may cross in future post-COVID times. And I'm going to try and stop sharing my video and wish you well. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.